I'm Colonel David Grant. I'm former director of the Army Soldier for Life program. I'm also a published author.
So, what inspired you to write?
Many things, but it's really part of it is just the power of putting the written word on paper to share my thoughts with other people, not just people that I know, but potentially people around the world, and to share stories that I find aren't only entertaining but have some value, to them in their lives.
Yeah, can you tell me about your latest book?
Well, my latest book, it's called "What Are We Going to Do with Tyrone Jr." It's a story about family, friendship, and the most special people in our lives. It focuses on a military couple who are raising their adult child who has autism. And what I've done in this story, I've kind of captured the ups and the challenges about what a family, and in this case specifically a military family, what they may go through while raising a adult child who has autism. And the reason I emphasize the adult is autism obviously is a spectrum, but the challenges that you have, the challenges that a family may have while their child is young are different than the challenges that they'll face when that child grows up. So I think this story does a great job with capturing the perspective. And part of it's it's a fiction novel, but part of it is my perspective based on my wife and I raising our son who has autism. But I think the book does a great job capturing a perspective of what life could be like in an entertaining way.
Yeah, as you said, it's a fiction, but what were you thinking about when you were, creating these stories?
A lot of the inspiration came from personal situations that I've had with just how with our son as he's gotten older. That's how that's when it gets more challenging, and how we've dealt with situations in public, whether it's tantrums in public, tantrums at home, and then also balancing work and in our case military life with raising a child who has autism. So that's really a lot what I was thinking about, and I also obviously thought about the other individuals who are going through the same thing that I'm going through, because I've met several families who are raising children with autism, and that came to mind a lot. So one thing that is really beneficial is that the community, the autism community, is very close. We can rest on each other for support. But that's really what was going through my mind, just the different challenges through the years that we've encountered.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your own military journey?
Yes. My military journey started, I'd say 30 years ago. I'm actually in the process right now of transitioning from the military. It's going to be 30 years of service. My service began May 28th, 1994, when I was commissioned out of West Point as a Adjutant General Corps officer. And I've had a wonderful career in, obviously, like most soldiers, different places around the world, different places in the United States. But I've really enjoyed the opportunities that I had as a AG soldier to provide support to soldiers and civilians throughout the Army.
Yeah, when you were a part of the U.S. Army Soldier for Life program, and now you're kind of going through that. How is it taking that experience to your own life?
Yes, I was previously the director of the Soldier for Life program, and definitely a great program which helps to spread the Army message and to highlight programs that are out there in the Army. And then to find myself going through the transition and being in a position to benefit from a lot of the programs that I talked about as director, obviously made my transition. I feel it made me a lot more comfortable going through the transition process. I think it's important that soldiers realize that there are tons of programs that are out there to support them. Whether it's the TAP program, the Transition Assistance Program that each installation has, and I did mine at Fort Belvoir and really benefited a lot from it. So it's great that we have those core programs that are there. But what's even just as important, and maybe even more important, is the fact that there are so many nonprofits out there that are providing support to veterans, transitioning soldiers, and family members. And I've also taken advantage of those programs too. One program that I'm in right now is called ACP, American Corporate Partners, and I have a mentor in that program who's kind of helping me as I go and look at my next chapter. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do in the next chapter. I obviously plan to continue writing, but there may be other things that I'd like to do, full time. And by linking up with the mentor at American Corporate Partners, that's kind of helped me. And there are other programs too that are out there. So I think every soldier just kind of needs to, stop and think about what do they want, and then look at the different tools that are out there to help them achieve those goals.
How does it feel for you to be helping other soldiers and veterans?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great, and that's essentially what my career has been like as a AG soldier throughout my career. A lot of what we do is taking care of soldiers. That's really what we do, take care of soldiers on the HR side. So when I transitioned to Soldier for Life, and even now talking about the programs that are out there, I feel it's really an extension of what I've been doing throughout my career. And with the Soldier for Life side, it's even in some ways more powerful, because I'm talking about programs that in Soldier for Life we talked about programs that would help soldiers, veterans, and military family members. So the entire the entire spectrum.
What are some of the things you've learned from your son?
Oh, he sees the world through unbiased eyes, and that's one thing that I really appreciate, where he doesn't treat you differently if if you look a certain way. He's just very matter of fact, and he's very caring, even though there are times when his behavior may not be appropriate. I really like the fact that he has that unbiased nature.
What are some of the things you do to help your own mental health?
That's a great question. Well, my wife and we try to ensure that we take breaks. I ensure that I give set up opportunities so at least my wife can go out and do her things, do her hobbies, whether it's going to the gym or going out with friends. And that's the key thing, is to have still have time for yourself. Because obviously a lot of what we do when we go on trips or vacations, a lot of times, majority of times, it's focused around our son, to make sure that he's having a good time, and to make sure that we have him in a safe environment, enough people to keep him safe. But my wife and I also have to have that time also to make sure that we can together and individually do those things. So creating that time and space, for my wife and for me to do stuff, that's important.
What advice would you give any, because you're going through the same thing right now with transitioning, what advice would you give fellow soldiers when they're transitioning as well?
Oh, absolutely. Start the process early. Whether you're retiring from the military or transitioning after 2 years or 4 years, think about what you want to do and start that plan. Take advantage of the Transition Assistance Program, and I know it's a mandatory program, but the neat thing that I found here at least at Fort Belvoir, and I imagine maybe similar in other installations, is they have the mandatory portion, but then they have a lot of electives, a lot of guest speakers coming, a lot of classes that aren't mandatory, but they're helpful. So I definitely advise people to take advantage of all those tap opportunities that are there. And then on top of that, I'd also suggest that soldiers take advantage and connect with those nonprofits that are out there that have that specific mission of helping transitioning soldiers as they enter that next chapter. And in these programs, they're helping transitioning soldiers, they're helping spouses. So it's important to know about those programs and know about, I emphasize this, the Partnership for Your Success program, where soldiers are essentially, with companies who are in the program, soldiers are eligible for an interview when they connect with that company. And sometimes the interview is a key thing that makes a difference.
I want to go back to the book. What was your writing process like in creating this?
Oh, yeah. The writing process, every writer has their own process, but the way I like to approach it is I have to find that idea where, like I mentioned earlier, the two books that I have published, I wanted to make sure that I wrote something that was entertaining, first of all, but more importantly, I wanted to write something that I thought had some type of life value. So my first book, the focus was friendship and relationships, very specifically friendship and relationships. With this book, focusing on a character who has autism and the parents, I felt that was something that would bring some value and bringing together the entertainment side plus the worthwhile information side. Aside from obviously coming up with an outline, it's the process is interesting because even though I'll come up with an outline in the beginning, a draft outline, I could be in the middle of something, folding the laundry, washing the clothes, doing the dishes, and then all these other ideas, come to mind and I'll either stop and type it into my phone real quick or jot it down on a pad so when I sit back down I can work that part into the story. But a lot of aside from things that have actually inspired me to write certain scenes of the story, a lot of the story and the outline came up one impromptu while I was doing stuff, and then after I felt like I had enough information, enough ideas for different scenes, that's really when I was able to start writing, start writing the words and putting them into the computer. One point I think is important, especially for soldiers who are currently serving soldiers, and also individuals who are thinking about joining. If you have a child with special needs, whether it's autism or any special needs, but especially for those who are currently serving, the Exceptional Family Member Program, the Army's Exceptional Family Member Program. I'll be honest with you, Michael. That program was hands down a big part of the reason I have been able to continue serving. The fact that the Exceptional Family Member Program helped to play a role to highlight the fact that I have a family member with special needs and to help to get me to locations where he could get the services that that he needs. And obviously services, especially when young, are critical for children with autism, especially what we call applied behavioral analysis therapy, ABA therapy. But the Exceptional Family Member Program, that is a big part. So I just would definitely advise to anyone who has a child with special needs, if you aren't already, to ensure that you sign up for that program, meet with the rep, typically at the local military hospital, so you can learn more about it.
So where do you want to see your writing career, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, next 3 to 5 years, career-wise, my goal is to have at least 1 to 2 more books released. I already have an idea for another story that I'd like to write. So now it's just a matter of starting to flesh out the outline and then put pen to paper. And to me, that's the biggest challenge is getting the idea. So definitely would like to have 1 to 2 more books out there, and then also would like to ensure that I do everything possible to make sure that my books have the biggest reach possible, so people are aware of this of the story, and they can choose whether or not they'd like to read my stories. Right now on Amazon, individuals, if they're a KDP member, subscription member to Amazon, they can actually read the story for free digitally, and then it's also available the paperback if people choose to do that. But that's really my goal, is to do everything possible to get the word out there. One, so individuals understand this perspective of autism. It's one perspective, one story of fictional story of a person who's on the spectrum. But also, more importantly, I think the value is for leaders and supervisors to understand what a family may be going through when they're raising a child with autism. So to me, I think that's even more important, where it's easy to kind of, I'm sure everyone is familiar with the phrase autism, but just to be, if you're a boss or a supervisor, that may give you a little bit more empathy and understanding once you read this story.
Have you seen the stigma of the perception of autism lessening?
Oh, yes, yeah, lessening. I definitely agree. Lessening, because I think of back in 2002 or three was when my son was diagnosed, and now with now here we are 20 something years later. I think there's more awareness. There are more organizations who are helping to help get the word out. So I definitely believe that stigma is lessening. But then again, it's that spectrum where you may have some people who have autism who are fully functioning,
Yeah.
and you may never even know that they have autism. But then you have another end of the spectrum, individual with autism, where they need to have 24-hour day caregivers, where physically there's nothing wrong with them per se physically, but the developmental side is the challenge, obviously impacting speech, receptive, expressive language, impacting thought, and that's the challenge sometimes. So it's really that spectrum, and it depends where that person falls. The person who has autism, it depends on where they fall. That's really going to help to determine how much support that they need.